I'd like to call the meeting to order and welcome everyone to the June 30th, 2020 at 6 p.m. Planning Commission meeting. Our first item of business is to approve the minutes from the February 25th, 2020 regular meeting.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Mr. Holliday. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Our first item of business is to nominate a vice chair to finish the current term. I'll take a nomination.
Motion to nominate Diane Sanders.
Motion for Ms. Diane Sanders. Do we have a second?
Second.
A second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, Ms. Sanders. You'll be our vice chair. And welcome, Ms. Sanders. Our first item under old business, item number 2. Site plan auto tire shop at 5493 Murfreesboro Road, requested by Chet Rhodes, property located at 5493 Murfreesboro Road, tax map 18B, Group D, Parcel 1, C2 Highway Service Commercial Zoning District, property owned by Shams, Inc. Mr. Logan.
Thank you. This request is to establish a new auto service and tire shop at 5493 Murfreesboro Road. This is a change of use, and there's an existing building there. This was known as the Van Winkle Small Engine Repair Shop for a number of years, and you can see there in the photos, the existing building is a yellow building with siding and has, right now it's got 4 bay doors, 2 that face Murfreesboro Road and 2 that face Mercury Drive. This is at the corner of Mercury Drive and Murfreesboro Road. And you can see on the imagery here, it's close to Walmart. It's about 2 properties off of Walmart's parking lot. Located on the north side of Murfreesboro Road. It is zoned C2, and I see this request was first here in, I believe, February, and they came back for a workshop in March. And then, because of COVID, everything stopped, and then it came back 2 weeks ago, and now here for the voting meeting. So it's at least the 4th time that everybody's had a chance to see it. They are proposing, they have 8 parking spaces laid out, and of course they've added the dumpster. A month or 2 ago they added the dumpster. That was a comment from the first go-round. They are installing a new sidewalk along the frontage of Murfreesboro Road, and they do have a grassy area in the rear and to the side that would aid in stormwater and detention. They have their ADA spaces marked, and they also are going to make some architectural changes. As you can see, to the elevations, they're removing the 2 doors that face Murfreesboro Road and replacing those with a type of French door that is shown in the submittal. So the side elevation will remain. They are proposing to add some brick at the bottom of that elevation, and the 2 doors will stay there to service vehicles. They have added a curb. That was a request from 2 weeks ago. They've added that curb, and the curb cut is shown. It's in this corner up here to the, I guess that's the northwest, more or less corner. And then you see the curb that they've installed around the parking area at the request of the Planning Commission 2 weeks ago at workshop. I believe it hits all the high points, so I'll be happy to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Logan. Do we have any questions or comments from the board?
Mr. Chairman, I do have one for the, if we have a representative for the project here.
Thank you, Mayor Call. Do we have a representative for a project here this evening? Name and address for the record, sir.
Yes, I'm Chet Rhodes with Rhodes Engineering, 1117 Whitney Drive, Columbia, Tennessee. And we do have 3 representatives this is the gentleman that'll be going in the tenant space, and this is the owner of the building. So there's three of us here. I'll answer any questions that you have.
Just had a question on this, the curb, that was added in there. Is that going in front of where basically the dumpster will be? The way that I'm seeing that?
No, that's an existing pad, concrete that'll be level and be drivable up through there. The curb will go behind 6, 7, 8, all the way to that concrete structure, separate the grass. But that's an existing concrete patio there where the pad is, and we've got that where it's coming up gradual to it while we sloped it. So it's actually, there won't be a curb there. They'll be able to drive toward space 6 from the dumpster. But there is a curb behind that, yes, right in that area. So I hope you understand what I'm saying here.
So that section coming down from the back of the spot next to 6, coming down towards the building, that's not a curb coming down, that little bitty section right in front of the 4?
In front of 6, between 6 and
No.
space, that's
No.
gonna be a painted line on the pavement there.
No, over, in between,
Is he showing it?
Right in front of the 40, sir.
yeah, right in front of the
In front
40.
of the dumpster, in front of the 40.
Right there.
Yeah.
That line coming down, that's not a curb?
Well, it does appear to be shown as a curb wrapped around, but it shouldn't be a curb there because we are accessing that dumpster there. Wasn't my intent to have a curb there, but my draftsman apparently shown that, so, at the wishes of the board, it can be removed or taken out, but I'm hoping we can get approval and remove that if that's the wishes. But I wasn't intending to have a curb there. We were trying to curb around the parking area. We need access to that dumpster right through there.
Right, and that was
So-
my thought, is if you put
So,
a curb there,
but,
it's just
you
gonna
know,
get tore up.
we can have a curb there or not, depends on what y'all think should be.
Mr. Chairman,
Please, sir, Mr. Adam.
there is an option for a mountable curb that we allow throughout the city. So that's a 4-inch curb instead of a 6-inch, so, you know, you can drive a truck over it, it's just uncomfortable, which accomplishes 2 things. You don't want people driving across there on the regular, but a dump truck wouldn't notice. Or, excuse me, a trash truck.
Mr. Chair, I have a question for staff.
Please, sir, Mr. Church.
So Adam, at this point, have they met, came in front of us several times, have they met all the obligations and the requests from the board?
Well, the request from the board was for a curb, so that's not an actual technical requirement. As there are no technical notes remaining, they've satisfied at least Bo and I as far as technical commentary goes.
Mr. Chair, with that said, is it okay that we make the motion to approve?
If there's no other comments, I'll accept the motion.
I'm okay with the truck to go to the top of it, to keep it in position with the drawing, that's fine. You know, but I think the intent was to make sure that people don't cut through 6, 7, and 8 to park on the grass at the back. That was the request. So providing the curb, not the curb, the piece in front of the 4.0 on that drawing is enough to get over a speed bump or to get over a truck over it, I'm okay with that.
Very good. Mr. Church, if you'd like to make a motion, if there's no other comments, we'll open the floor to you, sir.
At this time, meeting all the requirements that staff and this board has requested, I make a motion that we approve this.
Motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. We'll be moving on to the next item. Thank you, sir. Next item. Final plat sort of property requested by Edward Miller, property located on Sunset Drive, tax map 18A, parcel 23, R1 Low Density Residential Zoning District, property owned by Juan Sorda and Selena Alfaro. Mr. Logan.
Thank you. Similar to the last item, they first presented here in February and then came back for the workshop in March and then were canceled for a long time. And then they were here 2 weeks ago, and this is it's a minor final plat to create a new residential lot to build a house. They're currently zoned R1, which is the orange color, and this property, originally they were hoping to get 3 lots total, and after they ran into some difficulty with some of the existing structures on the property, because it is an older property, and some of the sheds that were there were older, and that presented a problem, and then also they were short on space for the 3rd lot. So sometime around probably late April, early May is when they decided to go with just 2 lots instead of 3. So now they are in compliance, and each lot does meet the minimum requirements for R1 zoning, and they do, these pictures were taken, I guess they did originally present in the fall of last year, and then they took a long hiatus and then came back in February. But there were no technical items. I don't think there's been any technical items for a couple months. There just hasn't been a planning commission meeting, so they've satisfied staff and the city requirements a long time ago. So I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Logan. Any questions or comments?
Chairman, I'll make a motion to accept as submitted.
We have a motion to accept by Mr. Coates.
Our second.
We have a second by Mayor Cole. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next item. Site plan, Seventh-day Adventist Church, requested by Asmitech Inc., property located at 271 Jefferson Pike, tax map 18N, parcel 18.01, R1 low-density residential zoning district, property owned by Kentucky, Tennessee Conference of Seventh-day Adventists, Inc. Mr. Logan.
Thank you. This property is at 271 Jefferson Pike, and this is the existing location of the Seventh-day Adventist Church of Laverne. And in this site plan, they are proposing to add 1,633 square feet of building space and also expanding their parking lot quite a bit. They are zoned R2, as is the surrounding residential neighborhood. It's all zoned R2, as you can see there on the zoning map. So we're looking right here at this parcel. They too have been here many times. They got an extra workshop like the last 2 prior items because of COVID. So staff's been able to work with them over a long period of time, and they have met all the requirements of the city. There's a photo there of the church off Jefferson Pike. Last workshop, 2 weeks ago, there was a discussion about their drive aisles, and specifically the landscape portion. My pointer's gone out, so I can't point up there, but I think the mayor had a question 2 weeks ago about a particular part of the, it's like a stub out, I guess you would call it. But as you're coming down the main driveway there, they had a width originally of about 24 feet, 24 and 25, I believe. And now this is the new plan. So now they've increased the driveway width to 27 feet and 28 in that whole general area. So they have widened that, widened all of those driveways. And they've also added some landscaping that was discussed 2 weeks ago that's behind the sanctuary here and borders the R2 property to the east. So they have some trees indicated there on their submittal, which was also asked. The city asked for that there at the workshop. Other than that, I'll let Mr. Leach speak to any stormwater items, if there are any. Thank you.
Mr. Leach, if you would, sir.
Mr. Chairman, they've satisfied all my technical comments from last time. They provided their drainage report with their, where they meet all our city requirements, and they also included a trench drain across the driveway, so there won't be any water coming from that nicely paved driveway coming out into the roadway.
Very nice. Good, thank you, sir. Any questions or comments from the board? Any questions or comments? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept as submitted.
We have a motion to approve as submitted. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next item, first item under new business. Site plan, Power Equipment Company requested by Michael Dewey, property located at Waldron Road and International Boulevard, tax map 17, parcel 5.01, C2 Highway Service Commercial, and I2 Heavy Industrial Zoning Districts, property owned by Bramco Inc., Mr. Logan.
Thank you. This is the power equipment site on Waldron Road, and it's currently, there's a new building there. Many of you are probably familiar with that. It did come for site plan approval in September of 2017, so almost 3 years ago, they got site plan approval for the building that you see out there today. So their specific request this time is to expand their rental-ready areas, and they're also adding fencing and gates to parts of the property. And this parcel does have two different zoning classifications. It's got I-2 as you get away from Waldron Road, and then next to Waldron Road, close up, it is Zone C2. So I know that there's been some proposed changes since 2 weeks ago in moving some of those rental-ready areas, and I'll get to those in a moment. Here's a photo of the property, and those were taken about 2 weeks ago. And this is the rear. You can see in the front, they do have quite a bit of brick as they get close to Waldron Road, and then the back is their service area. So it's more industrial-grade materials and metal siding, and things of that nature. So on their plan, they're showing these rental-ready areas to the south, and the plan from 2 weeks ago at the workshop had them up close to Murfreesboro, to Waldron Road, excuse me, and so you can see, I know today, I was emailed this by the engineer. So the area that's hatched in red is Zone C2, commercial, and I think they're proposing now to move that out of that area, and the rental-ready area instead would be expanded in that green hatched area, and that would be the new rental-ready area. And at any rate, when the applicant goes to the podium, they can discuss some of this. It's a late, kind of a late change, but see, other than that, I know, I think they were addressing some things with Mr. Leach, so I'll let him speak to the stormwater. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Leach?
My comments with the stormwater have been addressed at this time. Additionally, there is a note regarding the gates. They're proposing automatic gates, which, we have to, both the utility services and the fire department will need access through those gates, as we have a public utility that runs through there on an easement. And of course, if there's any event when the gates are not open, the fire department needs a way to open those. So that'll be part of the actual inspection. The fire marshal will determine whether the automatic gate controls have all the necessary equipment for them to either have a click opening, fire department provided access codes, whatever the fire marshal's comfortable with. The other question, of course, that is both a planning and an engineering comment is in regards to the 100% dustless surface. As originally approved in 2017, before I started, the dustless surface was allowed as I believe I think it's 4 to 6 inches of number 57 clean crushed stone. That does not meet our technical requirements for a dustless surface, because stone is by nature not dustless. Typically, it's either a concrete, asphaltic concrete, or a chip seal. That comment is outstanding. The board can weigh in on whether that is of having previously approved it, if they want to continue with that, or, stick with the ordinance. So that would be the board's decision.
Thank you, sir. So, Mr. Logan, these other 7 items, they're addressed?
Yes, sir.
Is there a representative here for this project this evening? Name and address for the record, please, sir.
And my name is Michael Dewey with Dewey Engineering, 2925 Berry Hill Drive, Nashville, Tennessee, 37204.
Questions or comments from the board for the applicant?
Yeah, I'll go back to Ms. Logan. So, Ms. Logan, the report we have still shows 7 items outstanding, so have they been cleared up, or are they,
They should have been taken off.
Okay.
They're fine.
okay.
Thank you.
Very good. And,
So moving on the applicant, dustless surface, historically this board likes to have a dustless surface being dustless, and obviously you heard the engineer's comment, and I think we would like to see it as a dustless surface versus a semi-dustless.
Yes, we understand. We've worked with Mr. Leach on that, and I've talked to our client about it, and unfortunately, what we would prefer is that we keep the same material and expand the same material that was just recently installed last year, and expand that area. What I've talked to them about is the chip and seal, but their equipment that they're going to be putting on that will destroy the chip and seal quickly, and same with asphalt. And so the only solution is concrete, and that's not a viable solution for it's just not cost prohibitive for them to expand this. So if they would have to have the dustless surface, then likely they wouldn't do this expansion. It to be concrete.
I understand, but of course, you're going to generate dust and take it on the city streets, you're going to cause dust for the city as well. So, I mean, this board's been very stronghold on this of being a dustless surface where required. I mean, it's just one of those things. We've asked all parties to do it, whether it's educational, churches, or businesses. We've been very strong with that. So that's my comment, Mr. Chairman.
yes, sir, and I have to agree with
Mr. Chair,
Mr.
if I may,
Coates. Mr. Church, please.
as I interpret this, if everything remains the same, they don't have to add the dustless. If they add to the building or make their changes that they want to do, that's required to the new code, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Mr. Logan, if you would be so kind as to bring back up the changes.
Oh, yes.
I wanted to.
That one.
Well, that's a pretty significant change from what we looked at workshop. I would really like an opportunity to discuss that.
And that's,
One on the dustless surface aspect, and, I just feel that there needs to be some more discussion in regards to this item at workshop.
I mean, obviously, we had a workshop and we discussed it at length, and then this comes up. Bo got this today. I mean, it's not correct and not following procedure.
And it's not on the plat, so to say. It's kind of drawn in with the marker, so,
Understand.
and, Mr. Chair,
please.
I can say some of those changes were due to some of the conversations that I had with the engineer. Looking at this more in depth and having some conversation with Mr. Logan, I always have significant concerns when we start taking our retail commercial areas and turning them into industrial areas. And while I know from our conversations it was discussed that this may be just temporary, it still affects that whole area, and we've seen many times where things that were going to be temporary wind up being permanent in the long run. So that was brought on with some conversations of wanting to help preserve that commercial area. Whenever it came before the Board of Mayor and Aldermen several years ago to consolidate all of the commercial area together, it was to bring in retail in that area, not for industrial.
All right.
And so some of those changes were just from some of our conversation. But yes, I didn't know if they would have the changes here or what they would do.
Mr. Chair,
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir, Mr. Church.
this is a situation where the applicant has the opportunity to defer this.
Absolutely, and that was my next comment, is I would almost request a deferral
Sure.
from the applicant so that we can bring this back to workshop and discuss it some more. Because that is a pretty large area, and now you're outside the envelope of, I'm thinking, the original plot that we were working with. So
I think the dustless
cha-
service really needs to be discussed as well.
and that'll give you an opportunity to discuss it with your client and see if we can come to a mutual agreement. So,
Sure. Yeah,
request for deferral, sir?
That is no problem. I just want to make sure I understand. We will get the plans revised to remove the area in red from the commercial
Yes, sir.
zoning district per conversation with the mayor. As far as the dustless surface, is the new area, if there's any new area, that will need to be dustless,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
even though they would be driving through the old dustless surface.
Staff can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's any changes, new changes, correct? Anything that's existing is okay, but unless you make a change to it. So by making a change to the storage area, now that area will be required to be dustless. One, that's what the city requires. Secondly, that's what the planning commission, I feel,
But
wants
the-
across the board.
The entire rental-ready area would not be required to be upgraded to the dustless surface.
The new area marked out on the map, if I'm correct. Mr. Adam, Mr. Logan?
That is our typical process, yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Would you like a formal request for deferral?
Yes, I'd like to request for deferral.
We will grant you
One meeting.
deferral, and we will see you at second Tuesday next month.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone. Next item. Mr. Logan, this item is deferred.
Number 6 is deferred, yes.
Thank you, sir. Item number 7. Final plat, the retreat at Finch Branch, Section 1, requested by Huddleston Steel, property located off Greenwood Drive, tax map 17L, Group A, parcel 8.04, R2 medium density residential zoning district, property owned by Rick Risha. Mr. Logan?
Thank you. This is a request for final plat approval for the retreat at Finch Branch. This is a residential subdivision located at Irvin Road and Greenwood Drive in Laverne. It is zoned R2, and they are proposing 28 residential lots with this phase. And there you can see in the plan what their layout is that they're proposing. And several months ago, there was a plan to do a roundabout and build a roundabout at Irvin Road and Greenwood and the new entrance to this phase of the retreat. But since then, they have decided it's best to do a three-way stop at that intersection. And there were no outstanding comments on this item, so I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Under technical item, it says, see City of Laverne subdivision reg. Is that taken care of?
That's just a boilerplate statement that's on all these, I think.
Very good. Any questions or comments from the board on this item?
I have one question for the engineer.
You'd step to the podium, state your name and address, sir.
Enoch Gerald with Huddleston Steel Engineering in Murfreesboro.
So just want to concur that lot 103, 104, 105, and 106 are buildable lots.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
I have a question for Mr. Leach. Just want to confirm, as it was discussed at the workshop before last, so several months ago, that at the new three-way stop, we can get rumble strips in there as part of that, since most people are familiar for 20-plus years of just driving right through that curve.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. The typical process for installing a new stop sign will have to actually follow MUTC guidelines, so there'll have to be some signage posted about a month ahead of time saying that a new stop sign's going to appear. There'll be adequate warnings put out that may or may not include rumble strips. That'll be part of the construction plan review. But there will be plenty of warning prior to stop signs showing up overnight, and especially with the police, they're not allowed to ticket within that time frame since it's so new.
Very good.
That's something I personally would prefer to see in the construction is to
That'll be
have
part
that.
of my review, Mayor.
Very good. Any other questions or comments? Entertain a motion on this item?
Make a motion, we approve. as submitted.
Motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Our second.
We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, sir. Item number 8. Site plan Sand Hill Village Lot 2, requested by Womble and Associates, property located at 101 Cash Court, tax map 14K, Group A, Parcel 2, PDR Plan Density Residential with a C3 base, Neighborhood Service Business District, property owned by Eva Ablenor. Mr. Logan?
Thank you. This proposal is for a retail building to be built at 101 Cash Court, and this is right off of Sand Hill Road. You can see in the photo here, this sits directly behind the Dollar General, the existing Dollar General. This will sit right behind it or beside it. It'll back up to the rear of Dollar General. And this applicant is proposing a building of 4,200 square feet. It's a one-story building, and it does have parking on the north and south sides. I'll go back and show you. So these are the elevations that were submitted with the project. So this shows the front with some black awnings and lots of glass and some stonework. And then looks like the sides would be some type of hardy material, hardy board. The plan from, this was the early plan that had parking on the south side next to the building. And then, if you remember, 2 weeks ago, there were 5 spaces in that southern parking lot, or what I call the rear lot. And after discussion with the planning commission, the applicant has added back in a space, so that's what you see there with the 6 spaces on the south side of the building. And the dumpster pad has also been placed on the south side of the building. Try to get it as far away from Sand Hill as possible. They do have ADA spaces off of the north parking lot, and those spaces are marked. And again, it's 4,200 square feet and 1 story. And trying to think if there was any other outstanding issues. I don't believe there's any technical items left on this one unless Mr. Leach has some. So that completes the report.
Thank you, Mr. Logan. Anything, Mr. Leach, on this project?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman, there are no engineering comments.
Thank you, sir. Any questions or comments from the board?
I'd like to speak to the engineer.
Representative for this application, your name and address, please, sir.
Danny Womble, 40 Middleton Street, Nashville, Tennessee.
Mr. Womble, I actually went to the site the other day, and I concur with what you were saying about the unloading process.
Yes, sir.
So I just wanted to let you know we're in agreement on that now.
Right,
The way
thank you.
that's set up, the way the road and everything is on, a box truck has no problem getting out. In a larger truck, there's plenty of room.
Thank you. And we did widen the driveway at the front parking lot to 30 feet.
Right.
As we discussed in the workshop. But thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to accept as submitted.
Our second.
We have a motion to accept in a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All
Thank you.
opposed? Was that a no, Ms. Diane? Oh, thank you. Very good. Motion passes. Next item. Item number 9, final plat Public right-of-way dedication for a portion of Lillian Buchanan Drive at Veterans Memorial Parkway requested by Womble and Associates. Property located at Lillian Buchanan Drive, Veterans Memorial Parkway, and Murfreesboro Road. Mr. Logan?
Thank you. This is a plat for right-of-way dedication of Lillian Buchanan Drive and Veterans Memorial Parkway. With this plat, the applicant will dedicate about .74 acres of right-of-way, and that'll be coming off Veterans Memorial Drive. And off Lillian Buchanan, it's right at half an acre. It's about 21,600 square feet of right-of-way off of Lillian Buchanan. By the way, Lillian Buchanan is the street you would turn at the post office. The Laverne Post Office is at the corner of Murfreesboro Road and Lillian Buchanan. And since this is just dedication of right-of-way, it's a fairly simple plat. I don't believe there's any technical items. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anything from engineering, Mr. Leach?
There are no comments on this one, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Any questions or comments or a motion?
Mr. Chair, this is the one, as we discussed 2 weeks ago, that would make those two sections a public road. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to ask this board to defer that to next month, or make a motion to defer it to next month. We are still awaiting word from our legal team in regards to ongoing litigation in this area with the HOA.
Very good. So we have a motion to defer. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. The item will be deferred for further discussion. Next item, item number 10. Preliminary plat, Carruthers Crossing, Phase 2, requested by SEC Inc., property located off Carruthers Road, tax map 29, parcel 29, PDR, Planned Density Residential Zoning District, property owned by Burkett Hills Investment Group, LLC. Mr. Logan?
Thank you. This is a request for preliminary plat approval for Carruthers Crossing. This site is on the south side of Carruthers Road, and it does border Davidson County. The whole site's about 92 acres, give or take. And this preliminary plat is for 23.7 acres of the 92. And with this phase, they are proposing 132 residential lots. And the total build-out would be about 345 lots when it's all complete. So again, that'd be 345 lots on the 92 acres. And let's see, there is a utility easement that runs through this property, and the homes there to the left are actually in Davidson County, so it's right on the Davidson County line. And they will have, they will be lining up their main street with McCall Lane, and McCall Lane is existing, and you can see it at the top of the photo there. McCall runs north to south, so they will be lining those up at the intersection, and that completes all of the, they've completed all the technical items, and I'll let Mr. Leach speak to any items he may have. Thank you.
Mr. Leach, sir?
Mr. Chairman, there are no technical items remaining for this item.
Thank you, sir. Questions or comments from the board?
Mr. Chair, do we have a representative from the,
We'll find out. Do we have a representative here for this item this evening? I do not believe so, Mr. Mayor.
with that, I would make a motion to defer because we still have lot number 168, which is still showing in the gas line easement. And I know from workshop 2 weeks ago, they were going to look into that. But without a representative here, we do not have any word back on that.
All right, so we have a motion to defer for further discussion. Do we have a second?
I second.
We have a
Just a
second?
technicality, Mr. Chairman. With them being on there, on the agenda, and if it passes 30 days, it could pass automatically. So, I just want to see how we're going to handle it.
Good point. I did not think of. I will rescind my motion to defer.
Is that correct?
Yes.
So we have
I
a
think
rescinded motion.
We've done historically, as obviously they're at the workshop, we handled the questions, they're not here tonight, there've been no correspondence from them. We have to move forward.
Yes, sir.
So with that being an open issue, I'm going to have to make a motion to deny.
And I will second that.
We have a motion to deny is submitted for the reason of,
Lot number 168, still showing in the easements on the plats.
and you second that motion, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Coates. Thank you, Mayor. Next item. Final plat, Carruthers Crossing Phase 1, requested by SEC Inc., property located off Carruthers Road, tax map 29, parcel 29, planned density residential zoning district, property owned by Burkett Hills Investment Group LLC. Mr. Logan.
Thank you. This property is Carruthers Crossing Phase 1, and you can see the layout there on your screen. This proposal is for 92 lots, and 2 of those 92 are commercial lots that front Carruthers Road. And I assume that because this is SEC, I assume there's no one here to represent this project.
Yes, sir.
I'm assuming somebody is sick or had an emergency because they submitted everything on time, and I've never heard from them again, so I don't know why they're not here.
It's not really like them too much.
Do we have an issue on this agenda item on 30 days, or would a deferral be adequate?
Well, let's see if we've got any technical items. So no technical items, Mr. Logan?
No, sir.
Mr. Leach?
No technical items.
So we have no technical items on the table, Mr. Holliday. I'll open the floor for questions or comments.
Mr. Chairman, as a final plat, this one would actually have a little more imperative ticking clock than the preliminary.
So we would need to proceed forward, sir?
That's a Evan question, but my recommendation would be yes.
Very good.
Mr. Chairman, could I get that repeated? I have no idea what that was.
A little bit louder, Mr. Leach, if you would.
As a final plat, this is actually, there's a ticking clock required by state law on the approval of plats. As a final, it's actually a little more imperative for this to be voted one way or the other within that time period or deferred by the requester. Preliminary plat vests some minor rights, a final plat vests a lot of rights, so I just wanted to make the board aware.
Mr. Chair,
Sir.
with,
Mr. Church?
with that said, would this be something that would make it prudent that the representative should be here?
On a final plat, we need to proceed forward, obviously. Yes, there should be someone here. Normally, they really are very good about being here, so I'm a little confused as to what's going on with SEC, to be honest with you. I don't know if that answered your question, sir, but.
Well, Mr. Chairman, all I've got to say is we have to be consistent. I mean,
Yes, sir.
it's as simple as that. I mean, obviously, there's no correspondence. I mean, obviously, there are no technical issues, but we have questions that the board wants to ask. And so with that, I'm going to have to make a comment to say I'd like to make for a denial due to there's no one here to answer questions for the planning commission.
I'd second that.
So is that a motion, Mr. Coates?
It was, yes, sir. Yes.
So we're making a motion to, because a little muffled on me. Motion
To deny
based on,
the final plat due to there's no one here from SCC or the ownership to discuss with the planning commission questions that we may have.
thank you, sir. Mr. Holliday, you can second that motion?
Indeed.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
One no, the rest were ayes. Motion passes. Next item. Items number 12 and 13 are deferred, Mr. Logan.
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you,
The,
Mr. Leach. So we'll be moving on to item number 14. Site plan, MidSouth Carpenters Training Trust, requested by Danny Womble. Property located at 110 Veterans Memorial Drive, tax map 14, parcel 72.04, C2 Highway Service Zoning District. Property owned by MidSouth Carpenters Regional Council Training Trust Fund. Mr. Logan.
Thank you. This request is to build a facility on Veterans Memorial Parkway, a facility of about 24,780 square feet, and would be a two-story building. And this is for the MidSouth Carpenters Training Trust training facility. And it is zone C2. And here's imagery that shows the existing site. It's basically a flat site, and Veterans Memorial Parkway, here's a picture of the frontage along Veterans Memorial Parkway and the existing sidewalk. There is an existing sidewalk in that area that runs all the way from Murfreesboro Road back to the villas. So you can see there on the zoning map, the red is C2, which is commercial property. And there's a zoomed out photo. You can see the baseball and softball fields from Veterans Memorial Park to the north. This building would be a two-story and would serve as a training facility. They're also proposing to build an access drive that would run off of Veterans Memorial and would help ingress, egress with their parking areas. They do have parking all the way around the building. They have parking and driveways all the way around the building. They have parking on two sides. And they are showing the dumpster location at the rear of the property. And they also have a outdoor classroom area that is shown to the rear of the building. And that outdoor classroom area is roughly 6,270 square feet. And I do have the handicap parking shown and labeled, and also loading areas are indicated. The building on the old, so this is the old plan, and the building has been shifted to the south and east to accommodate for the 2/3 landscape provision for the yard. And so they have moved the drive aisle and the parking, they've moved it away from Veterans Memorial Parkway since 2 weeks ago at the workshop. Let's see, they have submitted, and I know the applicant has brought with them tonight, the architectural elevations that show what the building will look like. And there is a detention pond to the north of the building, northeast corner of the site. And Mr. Leach may or may not want to speak about that, but there's no other outstanding technical items. I know the applicant would like to explain the architectural elevations to you tonight, and that completes the report. Thanks.
Thank you. Do you have any comments, Mr. Leach?
No, sir, my comments have been addressed.
Thank you, sir. Is there an applicant here this evening for this project? Name and address, sir.
Danny Womble, 40 Middleton Street, Nashville, Tennessee.
Thank you, Mr.
We
Wall.
have made all the changes that we were requested to make, added all the landscaping that we were requested to do, and the client had the architect prepare elevations and collect the physical materials that you requested. They were shipped to us, but UPS did not deliver them to me today. And we tracked them. They will be delivered tomorrow, which does you no good tonight. I apologize for that, but I do have copies of them, and with your permission, I'd like to pass those around.
Please, sir. And I would assume that's on your plate, Mr. Logan, the materials board. How do you feel about the not being actual samples?
I have seen these and I'm comfortable with them.
You are comfortable?
Mr. Chairman,
Please, sir, Mr. Lee.
as long as I know the materials, I have no issue.
Very good.
Mr. Chair.
Please, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Womble, it was brought up at the workshop by some of our long-term residents that there is a slave cemetery on this property. Has there been any investigation or research into that so that we know for sure?
Yes, there has. Thank you for bringing that up. In my response letter back to the staff, I addressed that because that comment was made available to me. A little after 2000, we started working on this property. The first phase of development was in around 2003. The townhomes in the back, phase one, were developed. I did the survey work, I did the engineering work on it. There were no Indian burial grounds identified during that work or discovered or found, or cemeteries. Then we designed and did phase two. Likewise, there were no grave sites encountered with all of that work. We did phase three of the townhome development. There was no cemeteries found on that. We designed both of the main driveways that go into this development. Nothing was discovered in any type of remains from burial grounds with both of those street construction. If you're familiar with the property, there's a large detention basin that was constructed right beside Miracle Baptist Church that treats the water from all three of these townhome phases and a portion of the water that comes off of the city park, because a portion of this property actually came from the city. That was a deal that involved treating the drainage from the park and solving drainage problems on Easy Street, because several buildings were flooding there back in the early 2000s. So the building of this large detention pond, there were no relics encountered, no grave sites, no Indian burial mounds. This particular 4-acre tract about 2 years ago was regraded. I did design work on that. It was cleared and prepared to be developed. Nothing was encountered there. There was a geotechnical engineering study performed on this 4-acre tract. The geotechnical engineering report was provided to the staff. There was no grave sites encountered by the geotechnical engineer. Then in addition to that, there was an environmental study that was done on the property. And that study, that report, was also provided to the staff, and the environmental assessment of the property did not identify any grave sites or any cemeteries. So I've been all over every inch of the property. I'm here to tell you there's no grave sites on this piece of property.
Wonderful, thank you. That was a concern brought up from, actually at the workshop, so best way to handle it was get it right over to you guys to look into.
Thank you.
Very good. Any other questions or
Mr.
comments?
Chair, if I,
Please, sir.
so Adam, at this point, they've met everything that they need for you?
Yes, they have addressed all the comments from the last time, meet the requirements.
And Mr. Chair, with staff being happy, I'd like to make a motion that we approve this.
I think, do you have another comment, Mayor?
Yes, I had one other one.
One other comment?
Just wanted to clear up one other comment that was made at the workshop. Spoke to my counterpart in Hamilton County. Most of the area around the existing one in Chattanooga, most of the commercial was there already. This wasn't something that was driving the commercial, it was something that it was already there and just, it benefited from.
Very good.
Can we comment on that? I'd like to ask my client, Mr. Greg Williams, to come up and comment on that, because I'm not familiar with that site.
Name and address, Mr. Williams, if you don't mind, sir.
Greg Williams, Victor White, who's in here? Can I let Victor come up here? He
Please, sir.
belongs to that training center. He can come on it, but the training center was built in 1982. We've been there 38 years. So Victor can tell you more about it, but when we built that training center, there wasn't hardly nothing around it, was it?
Not right there within the direct vicinity. They was a mile or so up the road. Brainerd was a pretty popular area back in the day, one of the strips of Chattanooga. Sam's Club came in, Sportsman's Warehouse came in, and I don't know all of the stores where Sportsman's Warehouse, it's like a shopping center. There across the street, just right on the cloverleaf of Lee Highway and 153, right at the intersection of 75 North. And all that came in pretty new compared to our facilities. But there's a lot built up, and that's within a quarter mile of us. And like I say, Sam's came in after we did, and originally that was kind of an old heavy industrial type place, and as they expanded the airport, they started moving the heavy industrial out, and that's when we came in, and then that's when other retailers and hubs came, and I'm not saying we brought them in, but it's just the area changed, and they came in around us.
Very good.
So it made Brainerd about twice as big as what it was at the time for the retail.
Very good. Well, we have a motion on the floor to,
Approve as submitted.
we have a motion to approve as submitted. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor say aye.
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 No,
All opposed?
no.
So we have 2 noes and 4 ayes. Is that correct? Motion passes. Did you get that, Mr. Bruce?
Be great if you could do a roll call.
Sir?
Be good if you could do a roll call vote.
If we would, roll call vote, please. Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Church?
Yes.
Mayor Cole?
No.
Ms. Sanders?
Yes.
Mr. Coates?
No.
Mr. Holliday?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. That motion passes. We'll move on to the next item. Item number 15, site plan, Good Samaritan Vet Clinic, requested by Chet Rhodes. Property located at 259 Old Nashville Highway, tax map 17D, Group C, Parcel 1, C2 Highway Service Commercial Zoning District. Property owned by Labeb Isaac. Mr. Logan, and I hope I pronounced that correctly. Mr. Logan.
Thank you. This request is for site plan approval. It's actually a change of use and would become the Good Samaritan Vet Clinic. Property is owned C2. You can see in the imagery here, it's located at Stones River Road and Old Nashville Highway, 259 Old Nashville Highway to be exact. And here's some photos of the existing building. There is a sidewalk at this location that goes all the way around the corner. There's another photo of the sidewalk. There were intersection improvements made here a number of years ago. At that time, the sidewalk was installed. You see, it's a brick building, has a mansard-style roof. Go back to the ortho. This, you can see in the ortho, it's a small site, it's about 1/3 of an acre. But you can see the black area is asphalt, and then concrete is the lighter area. And there was some addition made to this building some years ago, which is that T-shaped, well, it appears a T because of the shadow, but in that image. So, again, it is zone C2, and they're showing adequate parking. There's only 14.2 spaces required at this site, and they have more than that. And 2 weeks ago at the workshop, there was discussion of the actual corner, which is, if I have a better photo of it, some older, yeah, this is the area right here. So it's an older area of asphalt that's cracked and weathered, and so the planning commission requested that they return this to grass or sod, and so that is indicated on the new plan in your packets. They are going to do that, and you can see there in the on the site plan, they're showing that new area of grass. I think they're going to specify it as an area for walking dogs, and exercising dogs. So I believe that's got most of the technical items. You have a one-way traffic flow with angled parking to make the site work because it is small, and so the angled parking becomes necessary. And I believe that takes care of planning comments. I'll let Mr. Leach speak to any of his comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Logan. Any comments, Mr. Leach?
No, sir.
Thank you, sir. Questions or comments from the board?
Mr.
Mayor
Chair,
Cole?
I have a question for the representative.
Name and address for the record, please, sir.
Yes, sir. Chet Rhodes with Rhodes Engineering, 1117 Whitney Drive in Columbia, Tennessee.
Thank you, sir. The dumpster for this property, where will that go? I don't see that on any of our designs.
I think at this time, there's trash service that was there for the existing business, and it was trash can. If we haven't indicated a dumpster, but they don't plan on having a large, volume of trash, so trash pickup through a normal residential type plastic dumpster is what's anticipated. We're not, we don't need a large dumpster
Okay.
at this location.
And then, this is minor, this can go either which way, but the little triangle area, I just noticed that on the plans next to the handicap parking.
Yes.
That's an asphalted area as well. Is there any chance of getting that as possible, as sodded area?
Well,
I just saw
the
that.
owner, Mr. Isaac, has been, it's like, can we make that dog walk area, grass area smaller? I said, no, we can't. It's a reasonable request, we're gonna do it.
Nope.
I had to fight to keep this large. He kept saying, make it smaller. I said, no, I don't recommend it making smaller. You're asking me my opinion. You need to keep it like you got it. I can ask him, but I already know he's stressed out about the cost of this.
That's
And I'm
fine.
like, well, it's not gonna be that bad. And, he said, that's fine. I'll be glad to do it. So, if that is a part of your motion and condition, I'll let him know, but I know he's not gonna volunteer for more if he can avoid it.
I know it's a very historic location. That's a former girls' school for the city. So,
Phone company, and
So,
I think I was like the only commercial building at one point in the city, to be honest with you, years ago. Satisfied with the answer from the representative, Mayor Cole?
I am.
Very good. Any other questions or comments?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Please, Mr. Holliday.
Your page C 1.1 has nice pictures of the handicap parking signage. I really would like to make the motion on this issue and include in that motion signage that you would work out with staff of this one-way directional parking lot. Do not enter signs on Old Nashville Highway, and entrance signs, one-way traffic, whatever would be appropriate, and I trust that staff can help you with that. But I would like that clearly labeled because there'll be a temptation, to make that turn off of Old Nashville Highway in.
very reasonable. With the angle parking, clearly it should be one way coming this way. So if you want to make that a condition of approval, we'd have, certainly no objection to that.
Okay, when the planning commission is content, then it would be my intent to make a motion in that direction.
Very good. Any other questions or comments before we take that motion? With that, so please state your motion, Mr. Holliday.
My motion is to approve with the condition that signage be appropriately worked out with staff such that one-way traffic would go through the parking lot, and approve with that condition.
Our second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Rhodes. Now, we will be moving on to our next item. We're making some good progress here. Item number 16, site plan, Old Dominion Freight Lines Addition requested by TTL. Property located at 1205 Bridgestone Parkway, tax map 17, parcel 26, I-2 Heavy Industrial Zoning District, property owned by Old Dominion Freight Lines, Inc. Mr. Logan.
Thank you. This is a site plan approval request for an addition to an existing building. This is the Old Dominion Freight Line site, and it is located on Bridgestone Parkway. There's 3 buildings on their site, and I'll just bring up the plan here. So there's the entire plan on the screen, and then, yeah, I zoomed into this one. So the actual addition to the building is going to, be attached to building 1, and that's the building to the far left. So from the left, it's building 1, 2, and 3, with 3 being at the corner. So the addition is 1,968 square feet, and existing building 1 is about 6,900 square feet. Building 2 is roughly 19,000 square feet, and then building 3 is 10,886 square feet. And they are installing some parking as well with these, with this building addition. And this is an existing site that has been there for a long time. Here's a photo of the office area, and you can see the tractor trailers to the right, and they go to the right and the left. So it's a trucking terminal, been there a long time. It is zoned I-2, which is industrial, and everything that they're proposing fits in the zoning. They're also doing some additional asphalt, be behind building 1 to the south. And they're also showing now, after the workshop, a sidewalk. This will be a new sidewalk that would be added along Bridgestone Parkway. And currently, there's only a sidewalk that goes around the corner, and then the sidewalk just stops abruptly, so they're gonna tie in to the old sidewalk and carry it down Bridgestone in front of their site. And they've satisfied all of the planning comments from the workshop, and I think Mr. Leach is satisfied as well. Thank you.
Very good. Questions or comments from the board?
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Church?
I'm concerned about the parking lot. I brought up in the workshop that, about the dustless.
Yes, sir. Is that the additional paving that's gonna be done, sir?
Mr. Chairman, they revised it to tar and chip the entirety of the back lot.
Very good. Good. Satisfactory, Mr. Church?
I'm satisfied.
Very good. Any other questions or comments?
I'd like to tell them thank you for that sidewalk on Bridgestone.
I would like to second that. Thank you very much for that sidewalk. We greatly appreciate it.
Then, Mr. Chairman, make a motion to accept as submitted.
We have a
second.
motion to accept, and we have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Next item. Item number 17. Preliminary plat Pinnacle Point Phase 5 requested by Huddleston Steel, property located off Lake Road, tax map 32, parcel 24, R1 Low Density Residential Zoning District, property owned by Deluxe Homes LLC. Mr. Logan.
Thank you. This is for a preliminary plat request. This is Pinnacle Point Phase 5, and it is zoned R1. And you can see it's located south of Lake Road and would attach to the existing parts of Pinnacle Point. See the zoning map here. So this is south of Rock Springs Elementary School. And it's just that southernmost corner, or not the southernmost, but almost the southernmost corner there. So this is R1 property, and they've met all of the setback requirements and the minimum size lot. They've met all the requirements for that. This is about 11.8 acres, the whole site, and they're proposing 23 lots in this area. And that comes to about 1.95 lots per acre. And I believe they've satisfied all of the technical comments, unless Mr. Leach has something. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Leach, I see two other concerns here.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. As part of our Waldron Road project, we're looking at shifting the alignment of Lake. Because of that, lots 151, 152, 153, and 154 could potentially be affected once we hammer out what that alignment is kind of meant to be. Our current alternative would make at least 2 of those lots uneconomic remnants, which would mean they would not be buildable. We are working to shift our alignment a little bit so that they'll still have some lots of it. Those lots will still be buildable, they'll just be a little bit smaller. That's, at this time, that alignment hasn't been hammered down, so it's, not something we can show on this preliminary plat. It's more of a comment to the engineer and the board to let them know that, it's an ongoing thing there. The other one, which is also an ongoing comment, Mr. Gerald did provide me the detention study from 2018 when they did some fairly significant drainage work out there. It all looked in order. The only question will be the design capacity of the existing detention pond is stated to be 494,000 cubic feet. We'll have to have a survey done prior to, as part of the construction plans, to determine that that pond is still adequate, and if the pond is not adequate, they'll have to dredge the pond until such point that it becomes adequate. Once again, those aren't technical comments because they're a little further down the roadway, but it is worth the Planning Commission noting those.
Very good. So this will be handled at construction and final plat, correct?
That is correct.
Very good. Any questions or comments from the board?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Mayor Cole?
do we have a representative for the project?
I believe we do. If you'd state your name and address for the record, sir. It'd be appreciated.
Gerald with Huddleston Steel Engineering in Murfreesboro.
Sir, I can see where we added in, or where y'all added in the mail kiosk. Is that ADA accessible for anyone? I know we've had that with another project about access for anyone who's handicapped.
It will be. We'll have ramps on there. I think they're showing them maybe labeled, but it will have a handicap ramp, and it will be ADA accessible.
And by this, are people just supposed to pull off the street into this little?
Correct. They'll be pulling off the street, out of the travel lanes, and then there's a sidewalk with ramps where they can go up to the kiosk.
Okay, and is that wide enough for like a handicap van to be able
It's
to safely?
10 foot wide, yes, sir, the spaces.
Thank you.
And I was unaware of any Lake Road improvements, but those lots on the cul-de-sac are fairly large, and we'll be glad to work with the city to see what rights of way may need necessary and any revisions we may need to make to I know Mr. Butler doesn't want to lose any lots, but as long as we can accommodate that, I don't think he'll have any issues with it.
Very good. Any other questions or comment? Mr. Holliday?
It's become practice with the planning commission that we ask about sidewalks, you know, and there was a time when those questions were intrusive, and maybe they got no's, and now sidewalks have become something that we ask about, and people say, oh yeah, absolutely, we know that's a priority, and so we certainly included that. So I'm just going to ask, has there been any consideration to contribute to the Waldron Road expansion in a cooperative effort with the city, as some other applicants have suggested, as we consider this additional development?
No, sir. I mean, there's not been anything offered for that, no.
I understand, I accept your answer, and yet, you know, it's a question that we may hear more often.
Thank you, Mr. Holliday.
Mr. Chair, I do have one other question.
Sure, please, Mr. Cole.
With the sidewalks, this got me thinking with Mr. Holliday's comments. Do they end at Lake Road, or do they wrap around touching Lake Road with the different lots that are here?
You mind if I come?
Yes, sir.
come look?
Yes, sir, please. Speaking about this area here on Lake Road, I can see where it looks like they possibly stop here. But what I'm asking about is where, for at least the lots that they're building on, sidewalks going down Lake Road.
We have not shown any on Lake Road. If you're gonna do some kind of improvements, that would be something that maybe was part of the construction plans the city would be coming in, but we've not provided any on Lake. There's not any today. There's not any access to the school.
Right, there's
From
currently
this
ends
area.
at
Now,
the
they
school.
can come the other direction along from Pinnacle Point. There is sidewalks to the school.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure if sidewalks are proposed with your Lake Road improvements or not.
I believe they will be, but it's, once again, that alignment will have to be nailed down, and having the applicant at a preliminary plat, it doesn't matter quite as much to have them shown, but more importantly, anything that he would likely show would probably be ripped out whenever the city would go to do the improvement, so it might be one where a fee in lieu would be considered by the board.
My only concern is that any discussions with that realignment may not happen, you know, in the next 5, 10 years. We don't know when that would be. And with this, at least the children that may walk to school in this section, in this phase, they won't walk around to the front side of Pinnacle Point. They're walk to school right there to Rutherford, or to Rock Springs Elementary. I think that would help our overall design and help keep that area a little bit safer.
Add construction or final plat, you'd like to see sidewalks on Lake Road? Is
Yes,
that
sir.
Doable, Mr. Gerald?
We can add them. I don't think that'd be an issue. I don't think Mr. Butler would have any problem with that. He's always in favor of kids' access to school. I don't think it'd be an issue.
Okay, and we can proceed forward with preliminary, correct?
Yes, you can proceed forward with of course, I'll just have to catch it on the construction plans, or this board will get to see it again at the final plat.
Well, with that caveat of the sidewalks being added for Lake Road that are touching these lots, I'll make a motion to accept as submitted.
We have a motion to accept as submitted. Do we have a second?
A second for conversation. So with this motion, you're in agreement to add the sidewalks?
We will. When we do construction plans, we'll go ahead and add them. And we'll work with Adam. We may pull them back into the lots even to get them out of the way of future construction so they wouldn't be torn out. Because I hate to put them in and tear them out. Concrete's gotten expensive.
That's right, wonderful.
Brainstorm together.
My motion would be the second.
We have a motion and a second to approve, correct? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you very
sir.
much.
Moving on to our next item. Item number 18, set bond amount for a portion of Lillian Buchanan Drive and Veterans Memorial Parkway. Tax map 14, parcel 72.02, requested by Danny Womble. C2 Highway Services Commercial Zoning District. Mr. Logan.
Thank you. Applicant has submitted 3 bids plus the 20% contingency. The bids are from Blue Water, 4 Star Paving, and Gibbs Brothers. and grand total is $98,911, rounded off to $100,000.
Rounded up to 100,000, sir. Questions or comments from the board?
Mr. Chair, this may be a question for either staff or the city's attorney, but with us deferring the acceptance, no, wait a minute. This isn't I'm thinking this is the other road, I'm sorry.
This
May I
is
be-
Lillian.
I am thinking the right one.
May I be
You're
heard
correct.
on this item?
Please,
Can-
Mr.
Sorry, Mr. Womble, Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman.
this is the companion item to item number 9,
Hang
which
tight for me, Danny.
Danny
One moment.
Womble.
Please, Mr. Leach.
We can set the bond regardless. It just won't become effective until the staff actually accepts the bond and the planning commission approves the plat for the dedication right away.
Thank you, Mr. Leach. Thank you, Mr. Wong, for your
Okay.
patience. Go ahead, please, sir.
And I think the point that the mayor was getting at was the point that I'm making, and that is that this item has been around now for a few months. It is a final plat item, so the motion to defer it actually in effect would be an approval of it because of the timing of the item. So
On this item,
on item 9 that you've already acted on.
okay?
So I would like to make that point, and I would like to offer a solution to this situation.
We are listening, Mr. Womble. Thank you.
Okay. You know, I don't think this is the proper location and form for me to get into the details of this lawsuit, so I won't.
Let's not.
But this plat had been previously approved a couple of years ago, and a bond was approved. And the whole reason for this item coming back was to make changes in this plat to make it more favorable for the city because of the lawsuit. But in an interest to cooperate with this planning commission and to give everyone a time to understand what we're doing and why we're doing it, I would like to ask you to reconsider item number 9 as a request for deferral by the applicant, as well as a request for deferral by the applicant of item number 18, and I think that would correct this problem.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, the way procedurally to handle that would be someone would need to make a motion to rescind the action on item number 9 and then consider the request on action item number 18.
So moved.
So we have a request to rescind item number 9's motion, and we have a formal request from the applicant on items number 9 and 18 to be deferred by the applicant. Correct, Mr. Womble?
Correct.
Thank you. No motion, sir?
Yes, yeah, we need a motion on that.
And so moved.
I'll second.
And we have a motion and a second on both parts of that, correct? Very good.
Kind of vote.
And
Vote on the motion.
that was next, sir.
Oh, sorry.
No problem, sir. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Womble. Greatly appreciated, sir. So with that, we will move on to item number 19. Set bond amount for the Ridge Phase 3, tax map 29, parcel 41.02, requested by Danny Womble, R2 Medium Density Residential Zoning District. Mr. Logan.
Thank you. The applicant has submitted the required 3 bids plus the 20% contingency, and bids are from Blue Water Industries, Rutherford Utility Company, and Bison Construction. And the total comes to $195,674, which has been rounded to $196,000. Thanks.
Very good. Any questions or comments? Entertain a motion for the comments.
I make a motion, we approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Our second.
We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next item. Discussion amendment to the Laverne subdivision regulations regarding the sidewalk fee in lieu option. Public hearing to be held on July 28th, 2020, presented by Mr. Coates. Mr. Logan?
Yes, as we discussed at the workshop, this was to give the city time to appropriately post the public hearing notice in the newspaper. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And our final item is bonds and letters of credit update. Mr. Leach.
Mr. Chairman, we've added one bond, which was submitted today with the passage of this for the Ridge Phase 3, so it's already shown on the list. The only thing that you will note is there's not been a whole lot of change on the number of lots being built out because Laverne doesn't have a lot of lots to build right now. We're a little bit behind on some of these projects that are bringing new lots online, so we're not really pushing out a whole lot of building permits, so there's not a lot of impact fees coming in, that type of thing. So it's more of a general awareness type statement. Other than that, we do have one bond that will expire on July the 11th. I've already reached out to Mr. Bowman. He's in the room, so he's getting reached out to twice. That one will be renewed, and that's really it.
Very good. I'd like to thank everybody for their time. Great meeting. Meeting adjourned.